Hello, and welcome to our show, Maunalua, Past, Present, and Future. My name is Mardi LaPrade, and I'm a volunteer with the Livable Hawaii Kai Hui, and your host for today's show. Our guest today is Mr. Sam Camp, a Livable Hawaii Kai Hui volunteer and board member. Sam, you started out as a volunteer. What were your first duties as a volunteer with the Hui?
Well, 3 years ago, I was driving past the site and I saw the sign. And I decided, well, I need to do something for the community. So I volunteered. And in the beginning, they had me working on the wetlands.
Mm-hmm.
And after going for the third month that I came to the community work day, I was allowed to go up into the cultural site with one of the cultural practitioners, and she checked me out, vetted me out, and then allowed me to start clearing in the cultural site, moving away all the bougainvillea and night blooming cereus and all the pokey things that live up there. And I've been doing that ever since.
So you're really instrumental in helping to clear Hāwea Heiau complex, which is a beautiful cultural area right next to Keawāwa Wetland in Hawaii Kai. And I myself have seen the changes in just a few short years, and it's monumental.
Oh, thank you.
You're just an inspiration. What led you to become a board member also?
Well, after working at Hāwea for almost a year, I started seeing what the board was doing in the community, and I wanted to participate more in that, more than just working at Hāwea. And so I asked if I could become a board member, and fortunately there was an opening, and I've been a board member for a year now.
Oh, thank you for that. Now, I know you have a rich background, and your expertise is something that's not something so many people are into, but it's very valuable for the Livable Hawaii Kai Hui. You're retired and spend most of your days working on the restoration project, but what did you do for a living, and what's your field of expertise? Please tell us about that.
Okay, yeah, now I spend about 30 hours a week at Hāwea, but my training was as an agricultural economist, and I have a Master's of Science in Agricultural Economics. My career was at the State Department of Agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
I started out first as a manager of the Market News branch, which gathered marketing statistics. Then I moved on to being branch manager of the Commodities branch, which did agricultural grading. And finally, I became administrator of the Quality Assurance Division, which had the Commodities branch and the Measurement Standards branch, which the Measurement Standards branch does takes care of checking all the devices, the scales and taximeters and gas pumps. So, and we also had the metrology lab, which has the standards for the state there.
Important for all of us, but we don't often think of that aspect of things. Have you done other volunteer work, and where was it?
Yes, right after I retired, I discovered the Kapiolani Community College Cactus and Succulent Garden, and I volunteered there for 8 years. And I would recommend everybody out there go take a look at that garden. It's a fabulous garden. It's on the Diamond Head slopes of Kapiolani Community College.
Thank you. You often have a friend helping you at Hāwea Heiau Complex, and you pull weeds and clear all that brush. What's his name?
Oh, that's Jim Metz. I met Jim at Kapiolani Community College. He was a math professor there. And after he retired, about 2 years ago, he knew about the work I was doing, and he came a couple of times and helped out. I kept him down by the wetlands, but then he got vetted by the cultural practitioners, and now we're the only two people, aside from the cultural practitioners, who are allowed to work in the places that have archaeological significance.
Now, why is that important to be vetted by the cultural practitioners? Maybe that might be a good thing to explain.
Okay, because the half of the Hāwea Keawāwa site is a cultural site. It has archaeological artifacts there, and we have to do all of our work by hand.
Wow.
Pulling weeds by hand, cutting, well, we're allowed to use chainsaws to cut anything big, but we can't use any heavy equipment to remove any of the weeds and trees. We have to, we don't move rocks. We leave everything the way it is, just because of the archaeological and cultural significance of the area.
And I understand the area's been studied somewhat, but you think there's still more to find?
Yes, there is, because we've been finding things. As we've been clearing, we've found additional terraces. We found an extension of a wall that the archaeologists had seen, but it was covered up with overgrowth. Yeah. And I found 4 petroglyphs that had not been identified.
Oh, that's really
exciting. Yes.
Oh my goodness. I understand you keep a journal of your time at Hāwea and Keawāwa. So please tell me, how did that start?
Okay, when I was working at Kapilani Community College, I got into the habit of taking pictures, and not only of the work that we were doing, but of the plants and so forth. So when I started at Hāwea, I started taking pictures. And I would share the pictures with members of the board and some of my friends and the cultural practitioners. And it started to grow from there. And pretty soon I was writing up what we were doing, keeping track of the number of hours we were working, how much rubbish we were throwing away. Then I started including references for the scientific facts I was presenting, and whenever I used Hawaiian words, I put down the dictionary meanings for the words. And I'm not a Hawaiian speaker, so I have to look things up, and I figured that the people who were reading the journal might not know the words, so I wanted to. So it's fun for me. I hope it's educational for the people who are receiving it, and now I have over 100 people who receive the journal.
And I'm one of those lucky ones. And you know, I find the humor in your write-ups entertaining as well.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for those. Now, I'm going to throw a question in here. Could you have imagined yourself doing this when you were a young man riding a horse through the area, working out, and you realized you grew up in that area?
Well, no, actually, I didn't grow up in Maunalua, no. But my girlfriend at the time, my high school girlfriend, lived on Ōlelo Home Road. She had horses, and we used to ride the horses along what I'm pretty sure is the archaeologists identified as a remnant coral road. We used to ride from Ōlelo Home Road to Hahione Valley. And I knew this place from the late 50s.
Yes.
And then when I moved to Hawaii Kai 45 years ago, it was all overgrown, and it was just a jungle.
Yes.
And I remembered seeing it a little bit more cleared, but I never paid much attention to it.
I see.
Until 3 years ago.
Amazing. You brought some photos to share with us. Let's take a look, and perhaps you can tell us about them as they come up on the screen.
Okay, this is a picture of what the site looked like in 2012. This is from across the street, completely overgrown. This is what I saw, 45 years ago.
And this is next to the Oahu Club?
This is, on the right there, that is the edge of the new apartment complex, and it's between the apartment complex and the Oahu Club.
Right. Okay.
Okay, this is what it looked like in April of 2015. This is after the Keawāwa was cleared around the wetlands in the forefront and cleared within the Uluniu, the coconut grove that's right behind the wetlands. The next picture is, this is a more of a close-up of the area at the western end of Hāwea, showing how dense the Keawāwa is. In the next picture, this is a little bit farther back view after the most recent Keawāwa removal on the slopes, and it shows it cleared up to our property line.
And we're looking across the green.
This is looking, yes.
Was the wetland and the reeds. Okay, and this one?
Okay, and this is a close-up of the cliff. It's at the back of our property going up the slope. That's the extent of our property. And it's actually to the right, you can see that there's a heavy growth of night blooming cereus, and this is what we're working on right now.
Ah, that must be difficult.
It is. Okay, this is a picture of what it looked like from the far northwestern corner of the property. You can see the dense Keawāwa growth, and this is looking downhill towards Hawaii Kai Drive. And then the next picture shows what it looked like after the most recent clearing
That's
of
dramatic.
the Keawāwa. And you can see down to the houses and the apartments, and you can imagine what it must have looked like back before Maunalua Kuapa was filled in. You used to be able, I'm sure, to see the ocean out into the bay.
Because you would have been looking at the fish pond.
The fish pond, yes. The fish pond was the largest fish pond in Polynesia, over 500 acres before development started to fill in parts of it.
We think that started the building of the fish pond around 800 AD in what used to be a wetland, right?
Okay, okay. And this is one of our most recent developments. We have started to put in a chain link fence to separate the property. Along the side between this property and the apartment complex, there is a dust barrier, which you can see right in the corner, and that is now going to be removed since we've blocked off access from the townhouses behind.
Yes.
So the dust barrier is going to start to come down. And
it's important to respect the cultural area right there in the foreground.
yes. And, okay.
What do we have
now,
here?
Yes, at this site there used to be a wili tree. It was dead. It died from the galling wasp. And it was just a skeleton of a tree full of carpenter bees, and I called it the bee condo.
Yes.
It fell down, and we had somebody donated this wili to replace it, and this is planting the wili. And that was, when was that? That was in July of 15. And this is what it looks like now. It's going to become a beautiful tree.
I'm so happy to see the wili alive. Oh.
Okay, this is another of our newest additions, and this is the Alaiula family that lives on the Wahoo Club side of the wetlands with their new chick. And the next picture shows the Alaiula chick that lives with its family out on the Hāwea side of the wetlands. So these are our two newest additions to Hāwea.
So an interesting thing that happened is when you were doing restoration work on the side the Livable Hawaii Kai Hui purchased, then you the birds, just a little bit of restoration work and the birds moved over.
The birds have 4 of the 8 birds that live there have moved onto the Hāwea side. Well, one of them kind of goes back and forth, but but one family lives down there, the other family lives on the other side, and they seem to be, well, the one family that lives on the Hāwea side, the male is very territorial. When that other male comes around, he chases them out.
Oh, I see.
And we have seen that male going up into the cultural sites. He's very adventuresome, and he roams around.
I understand you send reports of what the birds are up to, and you can identify them because most of them, except for the chicks and the one new female that arrived, have been banded by Charles Van Rees, a doctoral candidate from Tufts. That's our advisor, and you send him reports, don't you?
I take pictures and I send him reports of their activities whenever I view them. They're secretive birds, and so they hide a lot, but when they do come out and I observe them, I try and record what they're doing, and
that's so
and it's very nice because he's banded them, and it's I'm able to identify what the birds are. Otherwise, I would have a hard time.
Otherwise, they look alike.
Telling who they are.
So, being as they're critically endangered and he's studying their movement, that's very helpful. Thank you. You must have found some interesting artifacts. You call them contemporary artifacts, don't you?
Yeah, that's sort of my little joke that Jim and I have. We, digging up the weeds, we come across glass shards, pottery shards. Some of the glass and the pottery we know is historic. It's old. We find bottles with the bottlenecks that are blown in place, and the top is melted on so you can see a little ridge around it. And we find remnants of shoyu pottery bottles.
Oh my goodness.
But on top of that, we find action figures, cigarette lighters, razors. We found front ends from Volkswagens.
Wow.
And we've also found part of a First World War Army Corps of Engineers, not Corvette, but it's an Army bunk bed. It's
my goodness.
part of the bunk bed, and it actually had the crest, and we were able to identify it on the internet. So, plus a lot of ammunition, cartridges, and
goodness.
So people were up there firing when it was just all brush covered, and people also playing airsoft target, shooting at each other with the little plastic, because we find the little plastic beads up there too. So
you must also meet a variety of people at this restoration project. Tell us about some of them.
Well, Mr. Johnson, who is part of the Hui, brings Kiawe buyers in quite regularly. We have the Wahine from WCCC come at least once a month to help clear at the Keawāwa Wetlands.
Thank you to them.
We've had hula troops that have come, and we have a reverend from Buddhist-related church in the area who comes to give a blessing because he recognizes this as a holy spot. And he's now arranged to come once a week to give the blessing. So
my
he comes
goodness,
regularly.
I didn't know that. How nice. What are some of your other duties as a volunteer on the land?
I
see a workday flyer.
Yeah, they have a work day. I'm not really in charge of the work day, but I'm there and I help out. We do, when we cut down coconut trees, or we have halau that come and pick up the logs to make pahu.
Oh.
In the absence of the cultural practitioners, I sometimes take people on mini tours. I don't have all of the knowledge. I can identify the artifacts, but I cannot give the full history.
Yes. So people can go on a work day and give some time, some sweat equity, and then have a tour.
Oh yes, after the once a month work days on the second Saturday of the month, there is a cultural expert there who will give a tour at noon. So
Well,
it's
that's
a good
quite an opportunity for the community.
Yes.
Every second Saturday.
Every second Saturday.
That's been going on for quite a while now, hasn't it?
As long as I've been there, and I
Yes.
think before.
Wow. Okay, we have some more photos. I'd like to share them with the audience, and perhaps you can tell us about them.
Okay, this is a photo at the eastern end of the wetlands, looking across to the Uluniu, the coconut grove that's on the other side of the wetlands. And you can see the slope. This is a little ways back, and so the slope has not been cleared with the most recent removal of the Keawāwa.
That was at least a couple of years ago.
Okay, and this is an example of the two types of niu in the Uluniu. The long one is hiva, and that is used to make the apu, the cup for drinking ava. And the other one is nalo, which is round shaped, and it's used for making the apu for drinking water. And that's how they knew that, one way that they knew that this was a special place, because having a coconut grove that had those two varieties of niu indicated that this was a place where they had ava ceremony.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my. What happened there?
Okay. This is one of the three very old niu that lost its top due to the wind. The two of the other ones, one of them was for a year the tallest niu and the most popular tree in the United States for the year of 2014 that went down.
It wasn't shown in that last picture, but a couple pictures we saw. It was named Coco, right?
Yes, yeah.
And it won a contest?
It won a contest for the most popular tree in the United States for 2014.
Yes, I remember voting for Coco on my iPhone.
Well, we did a jasmine trius on her, and we just swamped them with the internet. And this is two other niu that we cut down. They didn't die, but we cut them down because they were growing in the wetlands and they were stunted. They would not have survived. And this is where we're stockpiling the logs from the niu. The halau will come by and look at them and see if they want to make pahu out of them.
Now there is one pahu already made.
Yes, there's one that was finished by one of the halaus. It is a Menakani halau. And they finished the pahu, and instead of keeping it for themselves for their halau, they donated it back to Hāwea.
Oh, how special.
And so
Thank you.
It's, thanks to the halau.
So that's really meaningful because Hāwea was the name of a famous drum.
Yes, it was one of the first two drums that came from Tahiti way back. I'm not sure when it was, but it was one of the first two drums that came from Tahiti, and it was located there. It came in across Maunalua Bay, and it was located there for a while, and it moved to other places. So there are other places named Hāwea in the state.
And it had a beautiful sound.
It was the first drum that the Hawaiians
And now you're caring for this beautiful place.
Yes, I love the land, and it has a special place for me. I feel because it was protected by nature for all of these years.
Yes.
And Jim and I have been removing this protection. We now feel that it is our job to protect it now,
Yes.
at least while we're still around.
It was rather hidden away and until the time was right. It's very special. We have a few more pictures of the area.
Okay.
Let's take a look. There we go.
Okay, this is of the Makai side of the wetlands on
Looking at Haheone, are we?
looking towards Haheone Valley. This is the sign for the property, and you can see behind the sign there's a pathway that's been put into for visitors to walk along.
So this is near the gate where people would enter when they come on a
Yeah.
work day.
And
Yeah.
this is on the other side of the wetlands, looking towards Haheone again. And this is an area that we're clearing of night blooming cereus. You can see the growth, and that's right up along, just a little bit below the property. And this is the pedestrian entrance where we will allow, we're going to allow visitors when they go on a tour to walk through there. They can view the cultural site, but they won't be walking, onto
Right.
it.
Let's
So-
see. And I think as I end, I would like to say thank you so much, and I hope everyone joins us at our work day. There's one coming up in February, and we welcome all kinds of groups as well, church groups, scouts, school groups. People can arrange field trips. And I thank you for joining us, Sam, and sharing your news and updates on Hāwea and Keawāwa. And thank you so much for your work as a board member and a volunteer. And perhaps we could see a couple more pictures of our birds
Okay.
if they're available. Thank you, everyone, for watching Maunalua Past, Present, and Future. There they are.
Oh.
Aloha.